Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we are here the first day of April as we shift into a whole nother month and deepen into spring. I'm delighted to be here with those of you who are here live and those of you who will be listening to the recording. My name is Ameya, and we are here to gather and deepen into our skills as coaches, counselors, healers, guides, facilitators, mentors, whatever word resonates with you. And let's see. I think we'll start with a grounding first, and then we'll go into the content. But for those of you who don't know me, who are new to my world, I'll just give you just a tiny little piece of who I am. So I'm the founder of the Woman Rising School, and really in this school we dive deep into earth wisdom and moon mysteries, all for the greatest sense of all of us returning back to our truest selves. So we use the energy of the earth and the sun and the moon to remember who we are, to let go of our conditionings, our wounds, our hurts, our pains, and really step into the truth, the essence of who we are, free from the past and present in this moment. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So honored to have you. And I know that there are women who are going to be listening to the call who are curious about our Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Certification Program. And this is part 2 of our open house series with 3 parts. We did our first call on Thursday, and that was about plant spirit medicine and the lost language of plants, and really getting into our communication with nature and respecting it and trusting it. And I gave a really profound breathwork practice that's given in meditation classes and tantric classes that can be used for our deep attunement with nature, plants, flowers, trees. So that is, the replay is available to you. And so we're here for part 2. And part 2 is really how to impact your clients, how to hold space for them to have the results that they are dreaming of and longing for and hoping. And this is a really important and powerful conversation that I feel really excited to share about. I don't really ever talk about this aspect, but I have a lot of respect for being a space holder. So we're going to get into all those details and more. And so we're going to begin with a grounding, because that's always really important when we come into space that we want to really delineate as either sacred or ceremonial or just different, right? So just different from the space that we just came from, the space of our morning, our afternoon, our evening, whenever it is that you're going to be listening to this, if you're going to listen to the recording. So we want to separate it from the busyness and the goingness and the doing, that you're choosing to come into this space, into this time in a really sacred way, and tune into these teachings, but also really tune into yourself, your path, how you are of service in the world, how you wish to deepen into service in the world, and how to be a more impactful facilitator for other people's emotional journeys and growth. So we'll start with a grounding. And so if you can, just getting yourself comfortable, taking some nice deep breaths here. And when you feel ready, closing your eyes and just letting your lids gently cover those eyes that look out into the world, that take in energy and information and are actually doing quite a lot all the time. So coming into your own inner space and taking what your eyes often provide to you from this outward place and bringing it into your inner space, where there's a lot of integration that happens when you close your eyes, that you get to assimilate and integrate and understand what you've just taken in, what you've just seen, in a whole different way. Taking some nice deep breaths here. Just giving yourself a minute to come into this space for you, to connect into your body temple, your womb space, your heart space. If you need to make a sound as you exhale, just letting go of all that you're holding that doesn't need to be held anymore or in this space right now. And placing both hands over your womb space, just really anchoring into this powerful part of your being. And we presence Mother Earth. We presence her in this space for the ways in which she holds us and nurtures us, and really for the way that she is calling to each of us. And like a great mother does, she is patiently waiting for our return. She is patiently waiting for you to not just hear her call, but to follow what it is that she's sharing with you. How she wishes to come into deeper connection and union with you, and for the greater collective. Her call is holy, and her call must be heeded. You just get to decide when. So breathing into her limitless generosity. Breathing into all the beings on this earth that she nourishes every day, through her winds, through her waters, through the sun. And thank you to the plants and the trees. Thank you for calling us even more deeply. And we presence Great Spirit, God, Goddess. We presence the energies above. Thank you for calling to us as well. Thank you for continuing to clear the path for us. Thank you for the challenges and the gifts and the ease we experience. Thank you for the tender whisperings or nudges that you provide. Thank you to the cosmos and the galactic energies and really all that is a mystery. Thank you for showering your grace upon us and all beings. With your hands over your womb space, feeling into the knowingness that you hold both of these energies, that as a human, as a woman, you hold Mother Earth and the great mystery above in this human body, that you get to enact out your sacred service and your contribution in the world through these powerful energies. So thank you. Thank you to your body. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for showing up. So just taking a moment to feel into what is present for you at this time, what is alive in you as you are calling forth your sacred path so that you can be a leader, a healer, a facilitator in even a more potent way. And that just as you are calling forth clients or students or teachers to share your gifts with, remembering the call from the greater, from Great Spirit, from Great Mother to you. And that it is through this transmission that you can then get to call to your students and clients. So taking 2 deep breaths, fully anchoring yourself in this space at this time. Giving yourself gratitude for showing up. And may all that is spoken here and all that you receive be in the highest good for you and the entire planet. And so mote it be. Blessed be. So when you feel ready, just very slowly and easefully transitioning yourself from your insides, your own familiar and comfort, back to the outer and opening your eyes, letting a little bit of light in. So we welcome you. Honored to be with all of you. And get out of the sun a little bit. So I am really honored and excited to share about this information about how to be a better coach, healer, facilitator, guide, mentor. And I know we all have different words that resonate with us. I always considered myself a counselor. I always considered myself a flower essence counselor, flower essence therapist. I know some people really resonate with the word coach, and the word coach in the outer collective is kind of more understandable. So people will generally use that word, but some people who are walking more of the feminine archetypal path want to use the word mentor or guide or facilitator. So these are all just words that encompass a greater space holding that you are going to do or that you're already doing and want to refine on how to hold space for another woman's emotional healing and really her personal growth process and evolution. So this isn't a topic that I usually talk about kind of in the public sphere, but it's a whole module in our Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner program. I like this beam coming through me. I feel like I'm getting downloaded from the great above. So our Woman Rising Flower Essence Practitioner Certification Program, there are many of you who are emailing and writing to us and expressing interest, and there's some excitement and there's some hesitation. And so part of me doing these open house series is for you to get a taste if this is the right program for you at this time. But also I really need to share this morning, I don't have a lot of time as a new mama to go be in nature in the way that I used to, or I would love to. And this morning I woke up when Ocean woke up, and my mom is here and she watched him, and I went to this really beautiful preserve, and I sat and put my hands on Mother Earth and just asked for some guidance for those of you who are being called to this program, and what it is that I could share. And I actually wrote it all on a piece of paper. It was a pretty big transmission that I received from her. But one thing that she really expressed is that there are specific ones of you that she is really calling, and you are already hearing that call a bit, and or loudly, perhaps. Maybe it's quiet, maybe it's loud. And there can be fear or hesitation for many different reasons, energetically, financially, how much you can hold in your life and your space. And actually, I'm just going to move a little bit more out of the sun here. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Let's get over here. And so her message today was so much about those of you who are hearing her. She's very clear that you're hearing her. And yet there's so much chaos and noise kind of surrounding us in the surface of the collective that it can be very easy with the patterns that we've taken on throughout our lives for various different reasons. It can be really easy for us to dismiss or ignore that call from her, from Gaia herself. And so one of the things that she really shared is that she's really holding the container for those of you who are called to deepen in with her. And she's here whenever. And she really was giving me the visual of how, sort of in the mother archetype, but this could relate for, so many of you who aren't mothers because you understand this. But what she was saying is, as a mother, you are really always holding the highest reflection for your child. So let's say they're learning something new, or you see the potential in them for something, and maybe they're not picking it up right away, or maybe they just need a little bit more time to ease into it in their way. And as a mother or a friend or a caretaker, guide, whatever it is, we generally don't just look at a person and say, okay, well, they didn't get it the first time, so like I'm out of here. We continue to hold, brings tears to my eyes. We continue to hold that reflection for the person we love so much that whenever it is that they're ready to step into whatever it is, we're there. And that was really the insight and the medicine I was receiving from Mother Earth, is that she knows, and those of you who are feeling the call to deepen into her in whatever way. It doesn't have to be the Flower Essence Practitioner program. It's just a deepening with her. And it can be really challenging for a myriad of reasons to always follow that call. And she's asking you to step into it and to deepen in with her. And she's also always here. She will hold that vision for you until you finally say yes and you step into it. So I just wanted to pass that on to you because it's really powerful for all of us to hear, is that we're all on our own unique journeys. And there's so many patterns and so many imprints that are the lens through which we act all the time. And some of these are conscious and some of these are so subconscious we don't even realize we're living through them. And so it can be really easy to ignore. It can be that we're using the word intuition. We ignore our intuition, or so easy to ignore the call of nature. But it's here and it's real, and it will be here whenever it is that you choose to claim that for yourself. So just wanted to pass that on to you. Perhaps it settles somewhere inside of you. Perhaps it was a big, kind of remembrance right now, or it integrates over the next few days. So we are here for those of you who are feeling the call specifically to work with flower essences and step into our practitioner training program. And I feel like I'm doing exactly what Mother Earth is doing for me and for all of you, is here's my invitation, and I stand and reflect back to you whenever it is that feels most resonant to come and be with us, because this program is my heart and soul, and it'll be here hopefully for many, many years to come. And so there's many details that I want to share about the program, but I'm going to wait a little bit. I kind of want us to get into the rhythm of this call, and I want you to have an experience of why I chose this topic as so important. So for This is part 2 of our open house series. And this is really how to I use the word impactful, and not in like a, there's kind of like a masculine, like, kind of be impactful in that way. But I chose that word really consciously, in the sense that so many women are really suffering, and men, of course. And I just tend to speak towards women because that's my community. But so many people are suffering. And if we can be a focalizer for somebody's growth and healing, where their life really starts to shift, it's so impactful for them, for their families, for their communities, and ultimately for the world, right? So if we can help someone come back into her true essence, really like the truest essence of her beingness, the world changes. And I don't say that lightly or naively, it's true. So although this program isn't a coach training program, it really is. I mean, I've actually thought about putting that into like the title somehow, but I don't always love using the word coach myself. I find myself more using mentor or facilitator, because I know that I'm not the one doing the healing. It's being facilitated through my own being. Really, nature is facilitating her healing through me, that I get then to reflect to my clients or students. So I chose this because counseling and flower essences and how I teach this program really go hand in hand. And it's important to be really good at that. The world of coaching and counseling is exploding right now, as many of you are feeling. It's like, every person is becoming a coach or a counselor, and it's amazing. It's really, really exciting in so many ways, because people are going through their own healing journey and realizing how powerful that it is, and they want to share it with others. And what I also know, because I live in Southern California, where really everyone is a coach or counselor. And what I'm also seeing is the importance of being really good at being a counselor and a coach and a healer. That in a sea of people who are offering very similar things, my prayer for myself and for my students is that you really help your client to live her dreams, that you fall in love, not just with her, but with her dreams and her longings, that you want them to come into being and into form. And that simple foundation will allow you to become a better practitioner overall. So it's not just like you're in it for the money and you want a ton of different clients and you're a coach or a counselor. It's like you're really in your heart. You're really in your heart. And that's most important to me. So sorry, I keep getting these like rainbow fractals, which are really, really awesome. And I'm seeing this like really cool, it almost looks like raku pottery on my screen, which is cool, but I don't know if you all can like actually see me. So I'm just gonna keep finding a little bit more light. So part 3 of our open house series is going to get more into flower essences for actually working on these betrayals and self-worth issues that every single person on this planet has. There's not one person who hasn't been betrayed in some way, or has had their boundaries crossed, or needs to increase their self-worth. Okay, so here, I think maybe I just found a good spot right now. So let's see. I want to start with what makes a really good counselor or coach. And actually, hold on a sec, because I just moved away from my phone. I found this amazing quote this morning. And I don't know who, it's on my phone. I put quotes around it whenever I found it. I have no idea who wrote it. And I wish I did, because I'd like to give them credit. But basically, this is what I think makes a really, really good facilitator and practitioner, is a mix of your intuition. So really trusting that deep space inside of you. And we're actually going to go into that in a minute. really asking good questions. And that's something that we're going to go into today as well. Is most of the time, the people who come to you as a practitioner already have some awareness of their issues, right? Like, I do this because my mom did this, or I have money issues because this, or I was sexually assaulted, and so I know that's why I can't open sexually. Like, most people who you're going to be connecting with have an awareness of the beginning, or maybe they've done work on themselves and now they're like, wow, this whole other layer has come up and I want to go deeper. And so the thing that will make you a better counselor is asking really good questions, really guiding them into a deeper space. And this takes practice. It takes your intuition, like really hearing their story, not getting into your own assumption and projections of your own story through your lens. So asking really good questions, which I'm going to get into in a moment. And of course, being always a reflection of love and safety, because if somebody feels safe, they are willing to reveal things to you that they perhaps haven't told anyone else, or maybe they've told just a couple people. And what makes you a really good counselor is doing your own inner work. Right? So we know that we can only take somebody as far as we've gone ourselves. And this doesn't mean that we have to have had the same life experiences, but because that would be nearly impossible. We're all unique beings having a unique experience on this planet. But that means that if you're asking your client to be really committed to her personal growth, to being courageous, to being daring, to facing her personal underworld, then you yourself have to do that on your own as well. It would be completely incongruent if that piece wasn't there. And what I'm most interested when I teach my students, and for those of them who are going out into the world carrying the wisdom of this lineage with flower essences, is that you are in congruence with yourself. So, and with nature. So we can only take someone as far as we've gone. And it's really, in our Flower Essence Practitioner certification program, you get 3 one-on-one sessions with either myself or another practitioner who's gone through the training. And this is like a non-negotiable in my program. I've had so many business coaches say to me, financially, it doesn't really make sense for you to have this as part of your program. Like, this should be separate. But to me, what's most important is that you understand flower essences and that you are a really good practitioner. And the only way to have that happen is for you to have an embodied experience of your own healing journey with these essences. So that's a really important part of this program, and a part of yourself as a practitioner. And you're always going to be deepening. I was sharing on the open house call on Thursday that being a mom now, I've had so many other pieces of my own healing come up for review that would never have come forth if I hadn't opened to being a mama. Like, there's no way that those pieces would have been touched. And so I have more layers that I'm working through. So we're constantly in our evolution. And what happens over time is that when we go into our own personal underworld, it's quicker. We don't get stuck in the rupture because we have tools and because we've healed a lot of those original root causes of why we react or respond in a certain way. So it doesn't mean that these things go away. It means that they usually don't take us down in the same way, and they're quicker and to move out of. So I found this quote, as I was saying, that is so beautiful. And I don't know who shared it, but I'd like to, because I'd like to give them credit. But it's on my phone. I put quotes around me, and it says, "The healing of ourselves as healers has to take place first. Bringing ourselves to wholeness, we become more sensitive to other people. In a change of consciousness that happens within us, we bring about change of consciousness in those around us and in the planet." And it's so profound and so true. Hold on, finding better light again, is that this piece of healing ourselves is is foundational to me and what I believe about being a really good practitioner. So it's a mix, right? We have intuition, we have really being practiced of asking good questions, of really being a safe harbor for somebody, and for doing your own inner work. So it doesn't matter if you're a step ahead of them or 3 or 20, you're still doing your work. And that's really important because this comes up a lot for women who are like, well, I'm still like in my stuff and I'm like getting out of a marriage and my life is messy. And life is like that. You know, we've chosen to incarnate in a human body, and we've chosen to be awake enough to feel the currents of emotions within us. And so we're not always going to have it together. It doesn't always look beautiful and perfect. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. But it doesn't make you any less than of a practitioner. It means you're even more committed. You know, I think people who put themselves out there who have gone or are going through stuff make me trust them more, right? And I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, you know, there's a certain lens, right? We probably won't go to somebody who's like life is totally falling apart, because that's probably not the best time for them to hold space for you. But if they've gone through something, they're a better practitioner. So let's see. So what happens for most of us when we're coaching is we come up with fear. And one of the most common things for us when we're counseling, when we're holding space, is to please our client. You know, and this is a really foundational piece for women, because we've learned since we were really little to please everyone around us. And in this world, from the time we were little until possibly now, we get constant affirmation when we please other people that we're doing a good job. Oh, good job. That person felt good. I mean, I see it with my son all the time, people saying like he did something that the other person wanted, whether it's small, like putting a block somewhere, and it's like, good job. And rather than just acknowledging, oh, I see that you did that, there's a value that's placed on it. And so from the time we've been really little as girls, we've really learned to please everyone. And so to be a really good counselor and practitioner, that's not what we're doing. If you sit in the space of constantly pleasing your client, they don't grow. They just don't. Because so much of what you're doing is working with pattern and ways in which someone's showing up that, again, are conscious or subconscious, but are sabotaging them or limiting them or hindering them. The more you please them and kind of pat them and just, okay, you're doing the best that you can, and your client will never get the results. And this can be especially tricky for clients that you're working with who are really in a victim space. And we all go through feeling victimized at certain points in our lives. But for those clients of yours who are really in the victim space, that's what they want you to show up in that place. And the way I say that, it kind of seems silly, because we think people are coming to you because they want to heal, and they do, but healing is really, it's not easy to emotionally heal. It asks us to deeply feel pain and to not just feel it, but then to work through it and shift patterns. So even though somebody's coming to you with the intention of, yes, I want to do this, and yes, I want to have my life different, moving out of the familiarity is incredibly challenging. And we will fight our way to stay into what's comfortable. So it's so important, if you're choosing this path as a counselor, to always hold up that reflection with love and safety for their highest good, and not please them. To know that their evolution is most important. And this will invite you to step into a part of you that maybe you need to strengthen as well. So, you know, for me, with my clients and my students, I can generally be really soft and gentle and spacious. And there's some times where the ferocity of my love for that person needs to come forth. And of course, there's always a a best way that you can do that so the person receives it. And sometimes I've had clients who don't like what I've said. And that's really important too for you to be aware of, because it's triggering something inside of them, right? It has nothing to do with you, but it gives you a little access point into perhaps more of their wounding. So it's really important, and there's flower essences for those of you who are people pleasers and those of you who feel guilt tendencies for saying something that you think isn't, yeah. I think most every woman has people pleasing tendencies and guilt, which is so deep and so deeply imprinted into who we are. And so it's really important that we work through those parts of ourselves so that we can be just incredible practitioners. So that maybe in the moment your client isn't like, wow, that was really great, I got what you said, but a week later comes back to you and says, you are the first person who ever stood up to me and therefore for me, and my life is different. So it's just so powerful. And it's kind of like being on oxytocin high, you know, when you're falling in love or you're breastfeeding your child. It's like the high of witnessing someone's transformation is like nothing else. And it's a joy. So this place of being fearful of people pleasing rather than being just in really powerful service. And that's really what it is. You are in service to their dreams and their longings. And I think the other piece that most of us, especially those of us who are spiritual healers and really closely connected to the rhythms of the earth and the sun and the moon, have a lot of fear about selling ourselves to other people. You know, like, what is that person going to think, or how is that going to be received? And really, it's always about being of service. It is always about coming from a place of service so that you and your client will do great work together. So those are just a couple pieces that I wanted to share that I think can stop us from really claiming the potency of who we are as practitioners, and can really hinder our clients, our friends, our family, whoever it is you're working with, can really hinder their process. So being a powerful and impactful coach is really interesting, because yes, you need to learn and you need to have skills, but it's so much about you and your process and moving through your fears and into your leadership, truly, and into courage and willingness to be a powerful reflector so that your client, your loved one, can have the life that really is waiting. It's just, we have to move the junk and the gunk that's enmeshed and armored around her. So I was thinking today about, like, you know, if I was starting out as a new counselor, new coach, or I wanted to deepen, what would I really want to know? And so I chose 3 things that I want to share with you all today. And the first one is, really, I see counseling as really an art. And so I just want to give this piece that sounds really simple, but it's actually not when you're putting it into practice, is letting curiosity be your guide. So when you're sitting across from your client and you're hearing their story, and number one, it's a privilege to get to hear somebody's story. You will be amazed at what people live through and how they survive and they adapt. And it's always so fascinating to me to hear stories. And I'm always privileged and honored to feel safe enough to somebody that they're sharing. And a lot of times I hear women say to me, like, I've never shared this with anyone. I have to tell you something. And that's a really profound moment. So when I say letting curiosity be your guide, is when you're in the space. Well, first of all, before I even say that, one of the most powerful things that you can do when you're about to start a client session, so whether it's you're in person or you're on the phone, is to just take a moment and breathe and pause and connect with that client, her spirit, her energy, and really leave your story. This is not about you anymore. And like I said, that's why it's important for you to have your own practitioner and your own way that you're healing. But I remember when I was first starting, I had just graduated college, and for those of you who know my story, I had studied and written my college thesis on plant spirit medicine. And I had found this practitioner randomly. There still aren't that many plant spirit medicine practitioners, but this was, I don't know, 17, 18 years ago. I found this woman, and she let me sit in on her clients, and I would just sit in the corner and watch her. And I remember, I saw the craziest things in that room, but I remember her always taking a pause right before she walked into the treatment room, like almost like she was washing herself free of herself so that she could be a reflection of the divine. And it's such a powerful, just taking a moment of, okay, I'm reflecting the holy. I am holy. And it's not about me right now. So it can just be something really simple. And then, sitting with your client, and sometimes we get really in our heads, right? Like you're hearing the story, and what should I ask them? Or should I follow this thread, or should I follow this thread? Or what do I do? And the mind starts to totally trip out, and you get really kind of discombobulated, and you end up kind of fumbling over yourself, or just not asking the highest or the best questions for someone. And so in the Flower Essence program, the first thing that I teach is really letting curiosity be your guide. So you're hearing something, and then you're literally just unraveling a ball of yarn. Like you're literally just following thread by thread by thread. And to me, curiosity comes easily because I am just really curious. I am so curious about that person's life. Like, wow, you're sitting across from me and that happened to you, and what was the journey like? So for me, the questions, and I've also been doing it for a while, but to me, the questions just kind of come forth because I'm not holding judgment or assumption. Because in the beginning, when you're first starting, it's very easy to hold assumption. Like, okay, that person was sexually molested by their father. They must be like this, right? It's kind of human behavior to make assumptions. And it's really important that we don't make assumptions, because we can have the same two little girls experience in the same household the same thing, and they grow up and have totally different issues. That experience impacted them in completely different ways. So we want to really leave out assumptions and bring forth a deep curiosity. And if we can allow curiosity to be our guide, then the questions just kind of come forward. Rather than, so the assumption, if somebody shares, let's talk about being molested by her father. If a woman is sharing that she was molested by her father, rather than the question being, wow, that must have been really hard for you, was it? The question would be more of a curiosity of, what was that like for you, right? It's just such a fine-tuned little shift, but it allows her to have the experience. And the thing that's really important about making assumptions is that because we're dealing with people's emotional pain and their past and their present, so many of these women have never been seen, really, really seen. And so when you make an assumption, you're not seeing them, right? So if we said to this woman, wow, that must have been really tragic, or that must have been really painful, or maybe it could be wow, you must have a lot of anger towards your father, right? She may have anger, but she may have tremendous sorrow that's present. And that's the most present. And when we made the assumption of what she's feeling, she and you have now imprinted even more and affirmed her story even more that she's not seen. So it's, there's all these nuances of being a counselor that are really, to me, they're just so incredibly important, because that little shift can really create a big realization or feeling inside of somebody. So if you said, what was that like for you? It's like, oh, okay, let me share that for you. Or, wow, what's the feeling that you feel now towards your father? And, you know, in our world, we kind of learn, like, make assumptions. And especially as women, we relate to each other through our wounds, right? We hear a story, we're like, oh my gosh, that woman and I were like, we've lived the same life. I love her. But I may have a totally different experience with that. So it's incredibly important that you're using words and using your curiosity rather than your assumptions. So just letting yourself slowly follow this thread. And of course, if you make a mistake, or you do say like, wow, you must have been really pissed, or you must have a lot of rage, it's all good. It's just, how do you become even better at your craft? You know, for those of us who are artists, even though this actually isn't like you're creating something for somebody to look at in the way that we think of art or a story or something like that, you're helping someone create the masterpiece of who they are, you know, and that's so powerful. So this really is an art to follow your curiosity and the threads that they're constantly talking about. And the thing with flower essences is that the more you can deepen into following those threads, and the more you can get someone to get really specific, right? So let's keep on going with this piece that I was sharing of, let's say you say to this woman, how do you feel now towards your father? And she says, oh, he's not in my life. Like he's not there. I don't talk to him. I don't ever want to see him, you know, stuff like that, whatever she says. And then, you know, when you deepen into specific questions with her, you can get even more specific with the flower essence that you're wanting to put into her formula. And then the more specific you get with your flower essence formula, the more profound and quick she moves through some of these pieces. So maybe my next question would be, are you open to having a reconciliation with your father? Or how has that affected now your relationship with other men? Or, you know, just keeping on following this inquiry, and she's going to keep giving you these gems that as a flower essence practitioner, you are going to help you make the best remedy. And the great thing about flower essences is that it's not like you're never going to make a bad formula, right? You're not going to hurt someone. You're not going to send them back into their process, but it's just how powerful can you make the formula? So if I can touch even more deeply into the root of this pain that she's feeling, it may be that let's say she's married. It may be that her current relationship starts to totally shift because she starts to feel more safe or seen, or all the ways in which her father's abuse hurt her start to like just gently dissolve. And, you know, that's the beauty of flower essences, is a lot of people think of them as this really subtle energy and medicine, and they are subtle, but they're not always gentle. And they for sure are very quick when you literally are touching into that wounded space, right? It's just like when you're little and you hurt yourself and you scraped, and if somebody just put their loving finger or touch onto that wound, it's like a moment later, the biggest gash is like, oh, okay. And that's how I think about flower essences. It's like, if we can find the remedies to just touch into that wounded space, things just start to dissipate and dissolve. And I know that sounds like kind of easy, but in a way, that's why I love flower essences. I mean, you're still feeling things. And like I said earlier, sometimes things are really intense and overwhelming and potent and powerful, but they're not doable, because you have this bottle of allies and friends that are only working in the highest way that your soul is ready to release or unfold at that point. So it's this it's just magic. It's just magic. But you as the facilitator need to have the skills so that you can bring forth Gaia's wisdom and medicines to your client. So the art of curiosity is foundational as to be a really, really good practitioner and counselor. And then the second piece that I wanted to talk to you about, which I kind of just spoke about, is just not bringing your story. And this is really challenging. This is really, really challenging because our story is the lens that we see the world. And whether we've been working on ourselves for 10 years or 15 years, our story is how we see the possibilities for ourselves and the possibilities and the potential for the world. So it takes a lot of practice to make yourself, in the shamanic tradition, we talk about making yourself a hollow bone. And a hollow bone is basically like you become the most hollow space for spirit to come through you. And when spirit's coming through you, the mind isn't doing those same things. It's just spirit moving through you. And so there's different practices that we teach in the Flower Essence program about how to get into that space of the hollow bone, not just for shamanic practices and connecting with plant spirits, but really as a practitioner, how you inhabit that place so that you're not bringing your story and you're not bringing your projections and your assumptions, because that's the last thing that your client needs. That's your client really wants a sanctuary to land in, and she wants to be felt and seen and heard and witnessed. So it's a practice for sure. It's a practice, and it's really powerful. So if you have questions at any point, just write them down. We can answer them at the end. Then I want to go into this third piece, which is questions, like powerful questions. How do you get your client into a space where they reveal things about themselves and also have really big self-realizations that perhaps they never felt into in that way, or that they never thought of before? So like I said from the beginning, a lot of the women that you're going to be working with already know their story. And so sometimes it can be really hard. Somebody comes in, they're sitting across from you, especially if they're a new client, and they're just so used to sharing the story, right? Here's my story. I grew up in this kind of house. My mother was an alcoholic. My father wasn't there. It's like people know the story, and they're ready to move past the story and actually start to excavate the pieces that are still influencing their present life. And that's how I really think about emotional freedom, because that's ultimately what I'm after and what I want to help my students and clients experience and embody. Is emotional freedom to me means that you're making choices in this present moment, not based off of the woundings and the pains in the past, which most of us do, right? Most of us make an experience based on the 5-year-old whose father left them, or the 9-year-old whose parents got divorced, or the 10-year-old whose father passed away. We are making decisions in this present moment based on that, and our whole life, everything that happens affirms these wounds. And so until we have there's so many reasons I love flower essences, but, that's one of the reasons that I really love flower essences, is that, talk therapy is amazing because, if you have a good therapist, it can really help you to unearth different parts of the story. But the thing with flower essences, it's like the next step. It's like, okay, we've unearthed these things, and now we can give you a flower essence, a remedy for you to actually do more of this work on an emotional and spiritual level. And so it takes everything that much deeper. And that's why I think it's so much quicker too. I've had so many clients over the last 15 years who are like, oh my gosh, I've been in therapy for 10 years and I've never gotten these quick results after, a session. So they're the fast track is what I think. And I think it's a really powerful piece of, going from the story into how you can then move these imprints from the body and the psyche. And that's important for those of us who are seeking emotional freedom and liberation and wanting to access the truest part of who we are, not accessing the parts of us who have been conditioned and hurt. So these questions that I want to share with you, these are some good ones. And yeah, you're going to want to write these down. So, okay, I have actually a whole bunch that I want to talk about. So, in the beginning, when you're working with a client, I always start my client sessions with, a grounding like we did at the beginning, to really just get them here and present. As I said in the beginning, our lives are really busy, and it's really important to create that safe space for someone to go deep into themselves. And so I start with a grounding, and then I usually start with, again, if this is a new client, you wouldn't necessarily start with this question, but if this is somebody you're seeing continuously, I will ask them, what are some celebrations from the past month? Because we have tendencies to always look at what we still haven't accomplished or what we still need to do. And so it's like, sometimes we notice the ways in which we've been healing and growing. And sometimes it's like, yeah, but I'm still getting angry at my husband because the dishes are in the dishes are in the sink. And I haven't moved past that. It's like, but tell me, like, 2 really powerful things that you did this month that you feel really grateful for, that we can celebrate in you. And so I like starting with that. I think it's really powerful. I think it starts to shift and reframe how we approach our own inner journey. And we're all just so hard on ourselves that it's like a little reprieve. And that's really what I want to create for somebody. Somebody is like a sanctuary that's a reprieve for them, that's different for them, that they can be different than maybe their family or their partner or their work has made them into, because that's part of what we're always working with, is our identities and shifting into more of the truth. So starting with some celebrations, and then then I just always ask, okay, so where should we start first? I really let that piece be guided by my client. I don't want to have an agenda other than I want their greatest longings and desires and dreams to come forth. That's my agenda. So I don't have like, and I'm really conscious about this, and this is, a piece for you all, is like, sometimes we hear these stories, right, where somebody's talking to us about their partnership, for example. And in our heads, we're just thinking, oh man, she really needs to get out of that relationship. Like, this is not healthy. It's not good for her. Like, and maybe if you were a friend or somebody she was coming to for that kind of advice, you could say like, sister, hit the road, but we're not coming to tell her anything. And that's an important thing that I've really learned over the past 15 years, is that I can tell my clients something, I see in you as this, or, maybe we're talking about her marriage or her work. But the truth is, until she has that experience and understanding in herself, nothing I say means anything. So I'm just constantly guiding her towards her own reclamation, really, and her own clarity about everything. And my agenda is moving her towards her dreams and her deepest love and essence. So I generally will say like, okay, what's present? What do you want to focus on for the session? And usually it's like we start one place. So let's say we start with, my boss is giving me the biggest, issues right now. And by an hour at the end of our session, we've come into how her mother treated her when she was 10. It's like we start one place, and because we followed that thread of curiosity, we come into a totally different place of what's actually going on, right? These things that are showing up in our present are not based in the present. They're based in the past. So So I let them kind of begin, and then at some point I take over with the curiosity of my own questioning. And so one question that I feel is really important is if somebody's talking, or maybe you've had a couple sessions where they've kind of been saying something similar, is just simply asking them. And again, you've prefaced everything when you start working with them that this is like, there's no judgment, everything is private, everything is confidential. You've prefaced everything, and we actually go into that really deeply in the practitioner program. But you can just simply say to somebody, how long do you wish to feel like this? Just the pause. And that's a really important piece as a counselor, is space, getting quiet. And for women, this is challenging because if we've imposed a question to a client that we feel is uncomfortable, that people-pleasing part of ourself comes out and we want to just like talk right over it. So like, well, I'm asking you this. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I'm asking you this because I'm just really curious about if this is going to be blah, 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 blah. Just ask the question and be powerful enough and devoted enough to your own service for her growth that you get quiet. So one of the things that I teach in my practitioner program and with all my clients is, some of us grew up in different generations, but in my generation, in first grade, I had a teacher who, when it was time to be quiet, she would always tell us to button our lips. Just pretend there's a button and you're buttoning it up or zipping it. And I tell my students, like, when you ask a powerful question and you're uncomfortable, or you ask a question that makes you uncomfortable and you kind of want to like talk over it, button your lips, right? So you'll hear a lot of quiet when you ask a deep question. Like, it allows your client to take a pause. And what's great about that is that for a moment, she gets out of the story that she knows so well, and she has a moment to deeply reflect on an inner part of herself that maybe she doesn't always go into. So if somebody's talking about, this issue all the time, it's just simply like, how long do you wish to feel this or continue this, right? That's a really good question. And then let's say like their response makes you feel like, wow, there's something deep here, let's kind of go into this. You can also just simply say, and again, this is incredibly important when I say women, but really it could be for men, but I know it's important for women, is, do I have permission to go there with you right now? And really, you're asking permission. And I know you ultimately have permission because they're coming to you and they're paying you and they're seeking out your help and wisdom and support. But we want to create, every time you have a session with your client, every question you ask your client, you're continually creating the container of safety. The more you have that, the deeper they go. So a simple question is, do we have permission to go there? Do we have permission to talk about this? And they'll let you know. And their answer will be revealing, right? So if their answer is yes, it's like, okay, green light, you can start asking about that. And if the answer is no, you can ask another question, like, what does that bring up for you? Oh, wow, I have tremendous fear. Oh, what are you afraid of happening if we go there? It's just like all these questions that are really coming from a curiosity place are going to get you such gems. And again, these gems help you make a really powerful flower essence formula. And when you go through the practitioner program, you're learning a system. So it's like, okay, I'm hearing this and I know what flowers to give them based on what they're asking. And that's a really important piece, because usually when you learn something new, a new system, it can be really overwhelming. But this program's so amazing because it's really a system that I'm handing to you. And so, yes, it'll take practice once you're complete and you're working with clients, but you always kind of know where you're looking and where you're headed. And again, that creates impact for your client's life. So, okay, then those are 2 questions. Okay, then the other question I love is, where are you out of integrity with yourself, right? So this can be asked in a multitude of different ways. This can be asked if somebody's talking about somebody and they're saying, maybe they're using the word integrity, or they're kind of passing along that they don't feel that person's in integrity. And so you can say like, wow, I hear there's a lot of emotion for you. Generally, when we feel something about another, it's happening inside of us, right? So where might you be out of integrity with yourself? Or it's just a really powerful question to ask. When somebody has a dream, we all have dreams, and it's not coming forward, right? So, I mean, I get emails every day from women who they have dreams, and it's so painful that they're not happening, that they're not coming through, that they're not manifesting as quickly as they are wanting. And this can be in every area, any area of life. And it's so painful when we are not living in that space, and we're doing all the things that we think we should be doing to get to that place. And so if you hear a similar story like that, you can just say, is there any place in your life that you're out of integrity, that you're not living in congruence, that perhaps is part of this? And again, that can be a lot for somebody. So without you getting nervous that you've hurt someone's feelings, pause. And really, anytime, when I'm like, I just did, for the Flower Essence program, we have applications that we get on the phone. So I was just interviewing this woman last week, and we had just started. We hadn't even really said anything, or maybe like hello and a little like connection. And the other end got quiet on the phone, and I wasn't sure if she was crying or I wasn't sure. And so the beautiful thing about having space and creating space and not just feeling like uncomfortable, like, okay, she's crying, what's going on, is, to just say, hi plant, is to just say what's present for you. Again, that's a great question when you're not wanting to go into assumption, just what's present for you. So I want to finish this part with 2 questions that I think are probably the most powerful questions you could ask anyone. They're my, they're my deep questions. And this is really for, I'd say, somebody you've been working with for a little bit. And it's usually not the greatest questions for the first session, because they may not go as deeply as the answers could, and the answers are really profound. And again, these answers will inform your flower essence formula. So I was asked these questions when I was 25 or 26. So when I was in my 20s, I was studying plant spirit medicine and flower essences, and I was going through such a hard time. Like 25 to 26 were very, very challenging. And I didn't know how to create the life that I wanted to live. And I was having all these health challenges, and I was angry with my mom, and just like, there's just so much stuff. It was like, I couldn't see out of my story and my experience. And I was working with this acupuncturist who was actually the same practitioner I brought up earlier, the plant spirit medicine practitioner, who's now actually going to be teaching our shamanic program that we're offering in September. So it's a full circle here. She has helped me throughout like the last 15 years. She was trying to work on my constitution, like that real specific place in Chinese medicine where if you can touch into that, so much can start to shift for somebody. She couldn't get it. She couldn't find me, even with her training. And so she brought me to her teacher, and we drove from Philadelphia to Maryland, and I had no idea who I was going to see. And it was going to be like a 30-minute consultation and session, and we were driving home, and I had like anxiety driving down, like I have no idea, and I've been to all these other practitioners and no one seems to figure me out, and I had this whole thing like I'm not figure outable and I'm gonna have these issues forever and fuck. And so we get to this place, and the woman sits across from me and she asks these two questions that I still use 15 years later with my clients that are so powerful. And so the first question is, she sat down and she, when you're in that practitioner place with a really good practitioner and they're looking across from you, they see into you, right? Like there's none of your, they're just, so she looked at me and she said, do you know who you are? And I said, I think so. I think I know who I am. She said, okay, writing down in her piece of paper. And she said, do you know how to be who you are? And I just started sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And those two questions specifically help you figure out someone's constitution. And that's why she was asking me. But I use those questions because people are broken down into those questions. So there's people who just don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They've had so much trauma in their life or conditionings in their life that they don't know what they like to do. They don't know what their desires are. They don't, especially for women, like if they grew up in a very strict regimented household and kind of grew up and got married, and had children, and like they never had a pause to tune into who they are. They have they're like, I don't know what my desires are. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. I just don't know who I am. And that's incredibly painful. It's incredibly painful. And then there's a whole other group of women who know who they are, like I did. I was like, I know who I am. I know what I want to be doing in this world. I know how I want to be living. I just have no fucking idea how to make it happen. Like I couldn't make it happen. And it's just as painful. It's so painful to not be able to live into who you are and who you know yourself to be, just as it's just as painful to not even know who you are. So I ask those questions. When I find a really potent time, sometimes I ask them in the same session, or sometimes I'll get a hit, this person knows who she is. And so I'll ask the question, like, do you know how to be who you are? And it's always like that soft, either like what I had, just like sobbing, or just a soft, like, no, I don't know. I don't know how to make it happen. I don't know how to be this woman inside that I know is in there. And based on those answers, there's flower essences for that. And I mean, like, again, it's like you get the most profound flower essence. People's lives change in a day, in a week, in 3 weeks. So same thing that happened to me where I'm a practitioner and I'm thinking like, I'm going to have these issues for the rest of my life. They're never going to go away. And this is how so many of my students and clients feels like, this is just a part of me and this is just what I'm going to have to deal with. And when they start to disappear and they're not part of your filter, it's like the most liberating experience. So I'm going to kind of complete there because I know that I'm just actually watching the time. I can't even believe what time it is. And yeah, let's just take a breath too, because I'm feeling into like, when we hear stories like this, our own story comes forward and people we know, their stories come forward, and it starts to stir some things up inside of us of what it is that we want for our lives and for our loved ones. And so, yeah, just taking a breath and reminding that the beautiful thing about healing is that everything is repairable. And I have learned that with flower essences over and over. Everything is repairable. There is nothing that stays with us forever unless we choose for it to stay with us forever. So we can repair every single wound that we have. So these are some things, this is just, what, an hour and 15 minutes of things that we go through in the Flower Essence Practitioner Training Program. And really, this is a significant piece because, it's one thing if you have the apothecary or the wisdom of flower essences, but it's another to be a really powerful facilitator and help someone get to some core things and then be able to make them a flower essence formula to touch into that. So your clients will have radical shifts, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're hoping for. And so, so the practitioner program is online. It's 4 months. It's actually a little bit more than 4 months. We start on April 11th. We end on August 8th, which is the day before the full moon Lionsgate portal of August, which is all about you kind of re-encoding into your DNA who you are and how you're going to serve in the world. So it's a really powerful and conscious day that I chose for us to complete so that you can then go forward and really share who you are with the trueness of yourself and in your world. And there's so much that's included. You get your one-on-one session, so you're having the experience, and there's 13 live calls, and there's a beautiful sisterhood, and you get 80 flower essences. So you really get an apothecary to begin your work with, and you're going to want to start working with clients like halfway through the program because you're going to be like, everyone needs flower essences, and how do I get it in the hands of every person that I know? So you have this apothecary so that you can begin making formulas and remedies and really starting to use this in your tribe and your community. And what else? There's some bonus videos, and then you can choose to become certified. So that's sort of up to you, and we can talk more about that once you apply and you go through the interview process. And it's a really intimate group, so no one is left behind. You can't fall into old patterns. You can't hide out in any way. I will see you and call you out on that. And most every woman, we've had 51 women go through it the last 3 years, and every single woman has told me it's been life-changing. That's the word they always use, is life-changing. Oh, here's one of our women. Hi, Shona. So I love that on all the open house series, like at some perfect point, one of the past students comes on. It's like, whoa, I'm talking about all this, but you could share. So Shona, you're just popping on, but I'm just talking about how every woman who's gone through this has said the program is life-changing. Do you want to share anything since I'm putting you on the spot a bit?
No, that's not a problem. I actually caught a little bit of it because I was like, oh, good, she's talking about counseling. I can always use some more support with questions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The program is definitely life-changing. There's so much I could say. I mean, the manner in which Ameya teaches, it's so supportive, it's so gentle. Because your stuff will come up,
yeah,
most definitely. And it's held in such a beautiful container along with her and the practitioner that you may work with and all the other women in the program. It's really very transformative. This was a beautiful experience. And if anybody's curious, you're here for a reason, sign up now. It is going to change your life.
Thanks, Shona. Thank you. Perfect testimonial. Bravo. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually remember when we spoke on the phone after you had sent in your application. I remember exactly where I was sitting over on my outside table. So I'm glad that it's been so fantastic and potent for you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and really, like, I'm sure we have other practitioners who would be happy to talk about their experience if anyone's really thinking about it, because I know it's a big leap. It's a big leap in time and energy and finances, and you don't really know what you're headed into, like and I would say that every woman feels that same way. She's just like, I feel a call from plants. It's not about me. It's about the call from nature and from plants. And I do my very best to share with you the ways in which these beings are most fantastical and profound, and will change your life and the lives of all those that you wish to work with. So we begin around the full moon. So we stand in our exaltation of our light as leaders and counselors and guides and visionaries and really seekers of our own selves. We will begin from that place on April 11th, Tuesday, and we go till August 8th. So it's online. You can be anywhere in the world. We've had women from, of course, the US and Canada and Australia and Germany and Ireland, and so we welcome women from around the world, and really it's powerful to weave this collective of earth wisdom keepers and really earth priestesses is what I think of, because actually a lot of what I'm going to be teaching is from my own lineage of priestesshood. So that's a whole different Zoom call. So so this was part 2. Part 3 about flower essences and for betrayals and boundaries being crossed and increasing our self-worth is Monday at 11 a.m. So the same time, Pacific time, as this call today. And I see, okay, so there's just a few of you on call. Jen, Carla, Sophia. I mean, Shona, you're here as well, of course. But if you have any questions, let's open for questions about counseling, anything that I spoke about, questions about the practitioner program. We can just kind of free flow and see if you have any questions. So if you're on the phone, I'm not exactly sure how you unmute yourself. It might just be the mute button on your phone. And if you're on the webcast, it's that little microphone in the lower left. So we see if there's any questions and kind of go from there, and then we'll complete.
Hello.
Hi, Jem.
Hi.
I mean, there's so many of you who are here who I'm just like, they're already in the program. Like, you're just like, just waiting for your yes and confirmation. But like the 3 of you who are here, it's like, you're here. You're already in the program.
Yeah, it feels so good to be here. I've had tears and chills and energy rushes throughout this call. Yeah, a space that I am feeling into is trusting the magic of the plants and of Gaia. And I feel some shame in even sharing it because there is such large parts of me that trust so deeply and believes so deeply in this medicine and in this magic and in flower essences. And then I also want to like hold that part of me that is really doubtful and just like wants like really concrete answers and proof and yeah, that's what's been coming up for me in thinking about this.
Great, thank you. I so appreciate you speaking to that. And actually, yeah. So I just want to get clear. So your place of the trusting piece is flower essences, not nature itself, just the use of flower essences for,
Yeah.
Okay. I want to clarify that. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting place because unfortunately there aren't like scientific clinical studies saying this, and this. And all I can go off of is for sure my own journey and my own experience with them, because that's what I know to be true. And then doing this work for almost 16 years and seeing everything. I mean, because something's not working. Hold on. Maybe it's my, oh, there we go. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, like I wish there was a way that I could like go through all my clients and just share like, oh my God, this woman started here, and then she ended up here, and this woman started here, and then she ended up here. And even the women who maybe have come into my office, especially as clients, not students, who kind of feel like you, like, okay, my friend told me to come to you, but like, I don't really know who you are and what you do. And like, I'm not sure about this. Is those women are the ones that usually have profound and radical shifts. And they can be, you know, sometimes it's just your own personal habits, right? Of just like, okay, I cannot make a boundary with my mom. I cannot make a boundary. And every time she calls, she drives me crazy. And you take a flower essence and all of a sudden you're making boundaries. Like sometimes it's so simple. And then there's other times, I just had a client, a student, who shared with me about a really deep traumatic experience. And I had been working with her for about 6 months. And so 6 months in, she shared it. And it's, you know, sometimes it happens like that. It takes somebody a long time to feel comfort. And she said, I've never, ever told anyone that. And that gets released. It's like, so, and it's me in a certain way because I'm asking really good questions, but it's the flowers. And I know in a way it can feel like, how can these little, these essences of these flowers catapult such shifts and deep facilitation? And honestly, I don't really know. You know, like sometimes people ask me in the training questions and I will say, I don't know. All I know is that they work. And that's what's most exciting and important to me, because what I'm focused on, and this is, you know, we do this in, I forget if it's the first or second class of the training, is getting really clear on your why. You know, why you're showing up in the world in whatever way you're showing up, as a counselor, as an artist, as a mother, whatever, like what's your why? And so for me, it's always emotional healing and freedom. And so all I know is that they work. And that's enough for me, like for whatever reason. And probably because I got into this work, I started using flower essences for my own physical and emotional healing, and they worked, you know. And it was at this time where I'd been going to every person possible, as I was just sharing that story, and they worked. And so for me, it was just like I was hooked because I was having the experience that they worked. And so I became my own believer. And then it was just the practitioner piece came after my own healing. And so it made it that much easier. But I do know that based on this experience that I had with Mother Earth this morning that I was sharing at the beginning of the call, is she's calling you. You know that. I mean, I've had some cool experiences with you, with plants and nature, and she's calling you. And you have to come into that place within yourself of choosing when it is that you deepen into that calling, right? So it might be that you step into this container feeling a little like hesitant and nervous and like, I don't really trust, but I'm open and I'm surrendering into that space. Or it may be that I don't trust enough right now, and maybe I will later, and that ultimately becomes what's resonant with you. But I always think, for me, putting my hands on Mother Earth, putting my feet on Mother Earth, putting my back against a tree and asking is better than anything here. And you'll get an answer. So I know that's not really like a clinical answer in any way. And I know it's more actually you sharing your process, but giving it to Mother Earth, give it to Mother Earth and ask her to show you the way.
Yeah, totally. It feels just, I feel a lightness even in sharing it and being heard in that. And
yeah.
yeah, it's something too where I feel like I've done a lot of really awesome toe dipping, and I don't know what it would be like if I were to, like, stride deeper into the waters. And that's exciting, and that's also really something that brings up my doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So on my end, I know what's in store for you, and it's amazing. Yeah. I know what this journey is like and this process, and it's amazing. And like I said, I haven't had one woman go through this course, and not to sell this to you, but I haven't had one woman go through this course who hasn't said that just changed my life. So it's really powerful. I don't know, Shona, if you want to add, because you kind of have a background of a little bit more of a heady, like scientific place. I don't know if you want to add your experience.
Yeah, I can share a little bit of my experience. So as Ameya said, for me, the plants called. Actually, it was trees. Everywhere I went, the trees were calling. And I was like, okay, I'm going crazy. And I already was taking flower essences with a practitioner that Ameya had trained already. And so it's like, I'm going crazy, and what's going to happen? And the course popped up, and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea if I wanted to be a practitioner, or if I just wanted to have the experience. And I trusted myself to be open to the experience. And about halfway through, I'm like, I want to do this. And the doubts came up, and they still come up. And I'm enjoying it immensely. And to Ameya's point, there is no real science behind it. It really is just magic. And I can share a little bit of my story if you're okay with that, Ameya. I just had an experience yesterday. So when I started, some part of my story was being in that small box that my family put me in and not knowing who I was. And I'd say I'm learning who I am now. I'm more comfortable in expressing that. And I shifted from not knowing who I was to being enraged with my family for not seeing me, for not accepting me, for not seeing the shifts, for not supporting me in who I was, for not caring. And I learned that they were doing their best within their own limiting beliefs and their own patterns. And I actually found myself having a conversation with my mother yesterday about something that was coming up for her and a family friend. And I shifted it to her, and I said, my mother has a habit of adopting people, her new daughter, her new son. And I was like, wow, that's really good that you can be supportive for people. And I said, I noticed that doesn't happen for us, because I've had some traumas in my life. And she's like, well, I'm waiting for you to ask. And I was able to have this beautiful conversation with my mother, which I said, I understand you, Mom. I see you. I do have deep pains. I do have worries. And I've cultivated people in my life where I feel safe to do it. And I know that there are many things I can speak to you about. And there's some things that you just aren't capable. You're not ready to hold that space for me. And I have no anger or judgment against you. And we just ended it really beautifully. And I wasn't even thinking about what it meant for me until after I hung up. I was like, whoa, that is a huge, huge shift where I moved. And this is talking about maybe a year, where I started my story. A year, and a year later, I can have a conversation with my mother and bring up something that could be very painful. And my old pattern was to go into rage. And I didn't. We just had a beautiful conversation. She said, thank you. And I'm glad that you have support in your life. And I'm glad that you know that there are things we can share. So that's the magic of the flower essences for me. And I knew it was definitely the flowers. I knew it was my practitioners. I knew it was this course. I knew it was these women who support me. So, you think about doubt, it's going to happen. We're humans, it comes up. But the reality of it is, and the magic of it is, that plant medicine is there to support you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope that helps you.
Completely. Wow. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Shona. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
that share. Thank you.
No problem.
Happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So obviously only you know the answer or can find the answer. And I would just come into your heart, come into your womb, ask Mother Earth Yeah. Thank you for revealing that. I appreciate that. Sophia, Carla, any questions, shares? I've just realized I've sat in like an oak bush pollen, and I'm pulling out all the stuff from my sweater as we talk. The project over here.
Hi, this is Carla.
Carla.
Hi, I think, I've been kind of circling flower essences for a little bit, and I'm feeling into the need to explore some more. And I think, I feel that this is not the right time for me to make this commitment, but I do, because I have a lot going on,
I know, I was kind of surprised when I saw you because, well, Jem, you know Carla, and so I just got to see Carla. So I was kind of surprised when you were here because I thought this might not be the best time for you, Carla.
Exactly, but I do want to, when the time is right for maybe your students to work with people or to practice with people, I
they
definitely
would be happy to work with you. Yeah, we have a whole direct feed of coming forth.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I definitely want to be able to support in that way and to stay connected in that way. So when the time is right, then yeah.
we'll welcome you with open arms.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think Sophia's saying, no, I feel really good. That's been shared, just taking all of it in. Okay, so there's these two goddesses are taking lots of information in and have a big decision to make. So, and for those of you who are listening to the recording, yeah, just this series is meant for you to just take it in and feel what is best for you in this moment. There is no pressure. There really isn't. This program is here, and I would love to welcome you if now is the time. And I feel a little pressure in the sense of I just so feel like we need all of you right now, really embodying the wisdom of Gaia and really holding flower essences and really understanding how to facilitate emotional healing. Like that's the pressure I feel. And I was sharing with Mother Earth this morning, like I feel that pressure of like the chaos in the world and how many people are suffering and how simple it is for flower essences to shift this suffering. And so that I feel like the impatience, maybe not pressure, the impatience of like, I want to teach all of you this information because it is changing the world. And the more we can come into union, partnership, and relationship with these amazing beings, the more that the world that we know it now, it's in chaos, right? There's already a crumbling happening. It's how do we support it to shift into something new in a really not totally destructive way, right? So in a harmonious or love-filled way. And I believe these plants that are just sitting all around me, they have these essences just like we have an essence. And when you ingest them and they meet you essence to essence, nothing else exists. Nothing else can exist in the space of spirit. None of the pain, none of the conditioning. And we have reprieve and we have rebirth and we have resurrection from these plants. So I would love to invite you into the program. And for those of you who are listening as well, because I know there was a bunch of women we got emails from who couldn't make it live, but really, same thing. It's like you're feeling it. And just like, how do I get myself in there? How do I put that other foot into the container, into the circle? So we're here. We start April 11th, and our part 3 will be on Monday, and that'll be more flower essences for things that you or your clients are going through, healing boundaries that were crossed, healing betrayals, increasing self-worth. Every single woman that you will ever work with will need this information. Absolutely. no question. So you really become a beacon of a wealth of information. Complete. And I so honor all of you. And I love all of you that are here on this call, and so happy to have spent my Saturday morning with you all. And if you have more questions, or you want, like Carly, you brought up a great point. If you want to post this, we'll have a new website with a listing of all of our practitioners. But in the meantime, if you want to see someone in person, or you want someone on the phone, you can email me or Eliza, and we'll send you to somebody who we think is amazing. We have 51 practitioners, and pretty much like, I absolutely know that I want to be a practitioner, or I already am, and I just want another tool. And there's many who enter our program saying, I don't know if I want to be a practitioner. Right. But halfway through, or the first class, or by the end, they're like, I have to bring this information into the world. It's radical. So we have 51 practitioners, and so yeah, they would be honored to work with you. And that's part of this growing vision, is to get these practitioners to grow their businesses and to be in service in more powerful ways. So we would love to introduce you to one of our Woman Rising trained practitioners. So email us.
Great.
Anyone
Okay.
Thinking of that. And so with all of my love, I bow to each of you. And as I sit here with Mother Earth holding me, and as she holds all of us, remembering that we are all her children, that we are all rising from her nurturance, that our trees, the flowers, the plants, the winged creatures, the four-legged, the stone people, we are all her children. And we are all working together to bring peace and upliftment and healing, not just health, healing to the planet. And so mote it be, and may we walk in peace and balance, really sharing the essence of who we are with our own selves and our communities. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. So blessings to you all for a beautiful day, and remembering that, this call is complete. Our circle is always here, and we're always weaving and making magic and art together. So much love.
Bye.